Every entrepreneur has a story. Welcome to Happy Half Hour with an Entrepreneur, where each episode your host, Brian Carney, will share a drink with a successful business owner and have them discuss their unique journey, gaining insight on what it takes to be an entrepreneur and the different ways to get there. Brian isn't just a beer nerd, he's also the co-founder of River's Edge Advisors, a financial planning firm headquartered in Delaware, specializing in working with business owners. It's time to pour yourself a drink and enjoy a happy half hour with an entrepreneur.
Hey everyone, welcome to Happy Half Hour with an Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Brian Carney. My guest today is Arianne Missimer, cancer survivor, speaker, American Ninja Warrior contestant, ballroom dance competitor, doctor of physical therapy, a registered dietitian, and the CEO and founder of the Movement Paradigm. Arianne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's an honor to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you. So now we have to start out, we normally start out with a drink, but you are in a place of fitness, nutrition, and health. So you'll be drinking water, which is—
I'll be drinking water.
So I'm actually going to be trying out a non-alcoholic beer from Athletic Brewing. They make these non-alcoholic beers, which are actually pretty tasty. So I'm going to try one that's called the All Out Extra Dark. I'll give it a review at the end.
Okay.
So cheers.
That's a good comparison to water.
Right, exactly. Very similar. Very similar. All right. Well, your background and your backstory is pretty incredible. So, but before we jump into that, tell me a little bit about your business and how you got started and that part of it.
Sure. So my business is called the Movement Paradigm. So it is an integrative health center. So I have other practitioners that specialize in health-related fields. My business particularly focuses on physical therapy, nutrition, and movement. And we do that through a three-pillar approach, which is mindset, nutrition, and movement. And really trying to help people live their best lives, alleviate inflammation, live with vitality, and making sure that we're getting to the root of someone's issues, not just treating the symptoms.
Interesting. So I have a lot to talk about. So I'm pretty into this space, especially since I've hit 40. I definitely feel old.
All goes down. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I recently hurt my knee carrying a laundry basket up the steps. So we definitely want to dig into that a little bit.
But that's not because you're 40.
Right. That's true.
Just because there's some movement issues.
Yes. And I've gone to be examined and whatever. And I am horrendously inflexible. So I'm sure that certainly isn't a good.
That might play a part.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, so tell us a little bit about your backstory and, a little bit about your personal life and how you ended up going to PT school and why.
Sure. So I guess I'll take it back to when I was in college. Yeah. I wanted to be in high school even, I wanted to be a physical therapist. I had a little bit too much fun at University of Delaware. I was on academic probation, so I had to switch gears to the nutrition major, which actually ended up being an awesome transition for me. I ended up competing in My Fitness America at Miss Figure USA. So I got into personal training, got into nutrition, realized that was a very unhealthy approach to fitness and wellness.
Yes.
So when I finished my undergrad, my brother sadly passed away from cancer. So my mom and I were taking care of him. When he passed away, he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's and then ultimately lung cancer. I always say he gave me the greatest gift, which was passion and purpose. So I knew that I wanted to change lives. I knew that I wanted to help people, really give them the gift of movement back.
Yes.
And give them their life back. So right after that happened, I became the sole owner of a personal training studio called Core Fitness, which is in Wilmington. Yeah. And I had that and ultimately 13 years, but probably the first four years that I was practicing, I really was looking at the human body and realizing that there were so many more things than just fitness, that people were coming into a fitness setting with pain and injury, that they were dealing with all of these, emotional issues or stress in their lives. And so that really triggered me to pursue my doctorate in physical therapy. I wanted to learn more about the rehabilitative side. And then kind of fast forward, at that time, my vision was to always open up a multidisciplinary center. And I kept, it was always in the back of my head, but you have the best laid plans and things kind of take some detours.
Yeah, sure.
I ultimately worked at a physical therapy clinic, which was an amazing experience. I worked there for 8 years while running my business.
Oh, wow.
Became clinic director. So I was, kind of doing a lot at that time. And then ultimately was diagnosed with cancer myself.
Wow.
And that's kind of really what triggered me to really make sure that I was taking care of myself and that I was also going to fulfill my purpose and my passion.
Yeah. So obviously a ton to unpack there. So your brother gets cancer, and correct me if I'm wrong, he had the cancer moved to his brain, and it really impacted his ability to move.
Yes.
Okay. So that you saw that as an opportunity to say, hey, I want to be able to help people that are dealing with issues like that.
Yep. Because what I learned at that time, probably more than ever, is that, and I've said this my entire life since then, is movement is a gift. And I watched my brother's gift being taken away from him. And he fought so hard, and all he wanted me to do was help him move his arm and leg, even though he couldn't.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, none of us should ever take that for granted, that
for sure.
we all should wake up every day and cherish our health, cherish the gift to move, and just, really make sure that we do everything we can to maximize that.
Yeah, absolutely. So then while your brother is getting treatment for cancer, your mother gets diagnosed with breast cancer. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
So this is, a lot more than most people can handle. How did you handle all of this sort of snowballing on you at once?
I think at that time I was just so focused on my brother initially. And then when my mom was diagnosed, I honestly, just even reflecting back, kept thinking, I think she's going to be okay. So I just focused on my brother. But I remember at times thinking, wow, what is happening? I remember taking her to surgery, and my brother was in a wheelchair and my mom was getting surgery. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, what is happening to the two people that I love the most in the world?
Yeah.
And fortunately, my mom is okay now. So we definitely, I think, pulled together, and we really, I said from her, I really learned the true definition of grace, and just that she was able to pull through despite all of the horrific circumstances.
Absolutely. And, some of the things you talk about your brother going through, he was in his 20s when this was happening. Yeah. So you don't expect your previously healthy brother to be confined to a wheelchair in his 20s and then ultimately passing away at 29. So
29, yeah.
That is crazy. So
it was awful.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Well, then 2 months before you get married, you go to the doctor and you find out that you have cancer.
Yes.
So as if the cards haven't been crappy enough, you get another deal that's not great. So you hear those words that now you have cancer. What goes on in your mind?
So initially, my relationship was cancer that was lost, and that, that was the only thing that I knew. So I was, as you mentioned, I was about to get married, and thank God, I planned my whole wedding and every detail planned to the T.
Very common.
Right. So fortunately, and I wasn't stressed about it, so that was good too.
Yeah.
So when I found out, I was thinking, how could this be? I've taken care of my health my whole life. I meditate, I eat well, I exercise, all the things. And it was unbelievable. So I think that first 2 to 3 weeks of after my diagnosis were pretty terrible.
Yeah.
It was all of these appointments where, okay, you're going to do chemotherapy, you're going to do radiation, you're going to lose your hair, you probably won't be able to have children. It was just one thing after another after another. And, of course, everyone can appreciate that's listening is that when you lose control or you're not expecting something is when stress is that stress. And
the unknown, absolutely.
Unpredictable, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was all in that initial phase. And then once we had a plan to address it, I felt like, okay, here we go.
And you can, yeah, absolutely.
I can do this.
That definitely makes sense. So we're going to get into American Ninja Warrior in a little bit, but let's go back to the business. So
okay.
You start your first business when you're 22 years old in one of the most difficult businesses there is to be successful in, and that's owning a personal training studio.
Yes.
So you decide, did you buy the business or did you just start it?
So what had happened was, without going into a lot of detail, but I first became partner. So okay. I was actually in the school. I was in college. I became a 20% partner. And I just decided, this sounds like a good idea. This is kind of what I wanted to do with my life. So right. I did it. And then when everything happened, we just had some philosophical differences. And I was going through clearly a lot in my own life.
Right. Yeah.
And it just came to this decision, well, do you want the business or do I want the business? And at the time, I loved it so much. I mean, I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into it. So sure. I said, I'll take it. And so my brother passed away happened before. My brother passed away on a Tuesday. Friday before is when I took it over.
Oh my God.
So it was crazy, but I felt like it was, in some ways, in so many ways, it was such a gift because I just directed all of my focus and my attention, and probably not all in the healthiest way, but I was grieving through my business. So when I eventually sold my business, it was so emotional for me.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Because it helps me in so many aspects of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's pretty phenomenal to be able to have that mentality when it comes to that, Mm-hmm. So one of the things that's interesting, and if you can't see this, if you're not watching on video, behind Arianne, she has her sign, and underneath it says Mindset, Nutrition, Movement. So I want to talk real quick about how all of that, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, how all of that is so interconnected, where you might have poor movement because of poor mindset or poor nutrition. So how do you really help people focus on all of those things to get all of them in alignment to sort of achieve optimal health?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, there's the ambulance. She's coming back. So first I'll explain it generally speaking, but then I'll maybe give a quick example as well. So the reason that all these things were so important to me was that over my, at this point, 20 years of working with humans, I realized that you cannot separate anything. Mm-hmm. So we are whole people, and you can't separate systems in the body, and you can't separate muscles because everything works in patterns. So as I watch so many people with chronic pain or chronic movement issues, it was never just a movement issue. It was never just a nutrition issue. For example, if someone has chronic pain, then I have to look at, are they chronically inflamed?
Right.
Is that the driver of their chronic pain?
Yeah.
Or is chronic stress their driver?
Right.
So when I was working with people, that's really how I started to think about these three pillars. And then when I went through treatment myself, which I know we'll get into, those are the things that I focused on. Is, okay, these are the things that I've taught people or shared with people my whole career. These are the things I'm going to focus on that are going to help me heal and overcome challenges. So with this, that's like with my approach here, that's really why I opened this. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And so every person that comes in, I'm looking at, we do a really, really detailed intake, but look at everything from antibiotic use to sleep patterns and hygiene to what kinds of foods they're eating to how they're moving to injuries, surgeries, and everything in between.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're at what's really going on. Like my knee hurts, but what's really going on?
Yes, because the knee pain is never just knee pain. That's where you're having pain, but that's not the source of your pain.
Got it. That right? Makes a lot of sense.
And that could be, that's a specific movement issue, but that is really just about everything.
Yeah, sure.
So it's always trying to figure out what is the elephant in the room? Because some people might come in with all of these gut related issues, but they don't even know they have gut related issues. They just have eczema and they have fatigue and they have sleep issues. So then I'm trying to figure out what are their food triggers that are potentially contributing to these mental, emotional, or physical issues.
Yeah, very interesting. So since we brought it up, let's talk about nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
I feel personally that nutrition is quite possibly one of the most widely misunderstood topics by the general public.
Yes.
Right. Of what they should and shouldn't be eating.
Yes.
What do you see people when they come in to see you? What are some of the common nutrition mistakes that they make?
So many things. I think one thing is that most people will see that their friend or their colleague or their family member has done something. And so then they try it and then they'll say, oh, well, that didn't work for me. Or, they have these misconceptions about what works, what doesn't, what should be, what shouldn't be. Right. And so that's one thing. And then the second thing is that most people will say to me, well, I know how to eat. Right. Very commonly, they'll say that. And so then I always think, okay, well, let's take a look. And then when I look, it's really not, it's not what I would recommend. Yeah. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they turn out to be wrong. Yeah.
Right. Wrong, but it's not something I would necessarily recommend. It might be really, really carbohydrate driven, or it'll be bars and shakes and no whole food. And so I think there's just you're exactly how you said it perfectly. There's just so many misconceptions about nutrition.
Yeah, for sure. You can just see the things on TV or even on Instagram where, drink this potion or this shake or whatever, and you'll lose
10 pounds.
You'll lose 10 pounds. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it was that easy, everyone would do it, and we wouldn't be having that issue. Well, actually, speaking of which, so let's talk a little bit about in your space the impact that COVID's had on your space, and how have you seen those three things? COVID's really wreaking havoc on mindset, nutrition, and movement because for a number of different reasons. So how have you seen COVID impact your world?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll speak to it from a business standpoint and then from the health aspect of it. Yeah. So from a business standpoint, what was really interesting is when it first hit in March last year, I had to immediately shift everything to telehealth. So I was able to stay open as a health professional, but I did have to switch to telehealth. So the first month I maintained everybody that I had. I didn't really get any new people, but I maintained my business for really about 2 months, which was perfect. Yeah. But then what I saw was really come June, everything started to pick up. I actually hired someone and just continued since then to see people that have really struggled during COVID. And it breaks my heart because it's like you said, it's some nutrition things. They've gained a lot of weight. They've turned to alcohol. They've been either moving less or moving more and getting injured because they weren't prepared to do that. Absolutely. So really I've seen so much, but I would just say the overall arching theme is just so much more stress. And it could be, for some people, it's more the social aspect. For other people, it's financial, but it's mostly the social aspect of it that has really been really challenging on everyone.
Yeah, I keep saying that the quarantine is an extrovert's nightmare, to sort of be not used to going out to parties or even just going out to lunch with people, grabbing a drink with someone, it is really has been a difficult. And Zoom is okay, but it's not the same.
Doesn't do the job.
It doesn't do the job. Yeah.
No.
So, and how on your patients, we talked a little bit about the business, but have you seen one more the other, more people thrusting themselves into a workout routine, or more the other way where they're like, I'm sort of treating this as a snow day, is what a lot of people treat quarantine as a snow day.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of both, but I think more people it's really shed a light on some things that were already brewing in their lives. Mm-hmm. So whether they, for example, were always stressed before this happened, and then this took them to another whole level. Yeah, right. That is definitely a part of it. Or now that they've been able to actually be present a little more, they've noticed that, wow, I really don't feel good. I really don't, I feel really sluggish. I feel bloated all the time. or with the movement aspect, they might realize that they are just not in a program that really suits them, and they've taken some time to reflect. So I think the reflection has been the thing I've seen the most, and that reflection has led to, fortunately, moving in the direction of positive changes. But I think, it's been hard on people to notice things that had already been going on.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you about as you're talking, the impact that sleep has on people. And, I've sort of been one of those guys that I wake up early because I go to the gym in the morning, and there's been some odd, proud, hey, I wake up at 4:30, I tell people that sort of thing. But then the more research and the more reading I do on my own about how a healthy adult lack of sleep is really devastating on someone's body. Can you talk a little bit about sleep and how that impacts people?
Absolutely. And I always start with sleep is more important than exercise and nutrition combined.
Interesting.
So
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because I always personally prioritize sleep, but that's one of the first things I talk about with all my patients and clients we have in our intake. So I'm always looking at how much sleep they get. So ideally, it really is 7 to 9 hours, but that means that if you're in bed for 7, you're not getting 7.
Sure.
You're probably getting 6 to 6.5, which isn't really enough.
Yeah.
And then everything from, do you snore? Do you feel well rested when you wake up? Do you have trouble falling asleep, staying asleep? So a lot of those things will indicate whether someone potentially has hormonal issues. So if they're having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, their cortisol might be high. So they're most likely in a stress state. And then what is their sleep hygiene? So is someone, potentially just using their iPhone all the way until bed? No blue light blockers. So that is going to upregulate your nervous system and cause very poor quality of sleep.
Yeah.
You're deep in REM sleep.
Do you recommend people wear, like a sleep tracker, like a Whoop or a Apple Watch or something?
So I used my Whoop for years. I finally stopped using it. I think that everyone should track until they don't need to track.
Got it.
So to really
get an idea what's going on.
Learn about, just like you're tracking your food. So you could be thinking you're doing well, but then you calculate it and you're like, oh wow, I'm eating 2,600 calories instead of 1,500.
Right. Exactly.
So I think those are very, very valuable, and you can get an idea, especially with Whoop more so than the others. You can get a better idea of how your actual recovery is as well.
Yep.
So looking at heart rate variability, which is your best performance of recovery, and emotional resilience as well.
Yeah, so you actually bring up a really good point. Well, let's talk real quick about the impact that technology, specifically phones, have on us ergonomically and overall. Where do you see the biggest negative impact that phones have on people?
So I'd say one, for females more so than males, is body image. And also for kids is really affecting their brain development. And then this is for everyone, is that it is really creating so much of a distraction that no one knows how to be present.
Yeah.
From a mindfulness aspect, no one knows how to be present in the conversation or present with, their family members, their coworkers, their work. It's a constant distraction. And like I said, it's very obvious with kids, but in my world, I'm working primarily with adults. So I see it all the time. And that's sometimes one of the goals. We'll say, hey, let's try to decrease some phone
screen time. Yeah.
Screen time. Yeah. Just kind of get off of, if the social media is helpful for you, if you go on and it's enjoyable, it's friends, family, then enjoy it. That's what it should be for. But if you go on and there's all this negativity, politics, and it's just causing you to be in this fight or flight state or freeze state, then it's not helping you live your best life.
I think technology has been great in so many aspects. And you can even add work from home to this with this whole pandemic thing. But the one thing that I've really noticed personally, and I certainly struggle with being present, that's for sure, is that I feel the boundaries between when you're at work and when you're at home are really blurry now.
Yeah.
You're always on call with your phone. And there'll be times when my son will be talking to me or my daughter, and I'll be sitting there typing away, and I'll be, hold on a second. And then I get annoyed when they're just trying to tell me something about their day, and then I feel terrible about it. So It is a real issue.
Yeah, but you're human too.
True. That's true.
So,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for letting me off the hook.
Absolutely. And when you're, and I think the other aspect of it is once again the constant blue light. So you're constantly stimulating your nervous system. So it's so much more, people are on this so much more than they ever were before, regardless of what their work situation was like.
Yeah.
So it's really trying to figure out how to balance that out and, just use other, I call movement snacks or mental, emotional snacks of just kind of getting away from the screen time and doing something that's really beneficial for you.
Yeah, that's great. That makes a ton of sense. Well, you brought up social media and you are a TikToker.
I'm a TikToker. That's actually funny saying that out loud.
Yeah. And not in TikTok way that
I feel like a teeny bopper.
Yeah, exactly. I have a 13-year-old daughter and she's constantly doing dances. So, but you're not using TikTok in that way. You're using it for educational videos for the business. Yes. So talk about how, that has helped and how you've utilized that for the company.
Yeah, it's actually been a really interesting evolution. So my primary means of social media platforms were Facebook originally, then Instagram, LinkedIn, of course. And then I started dabbling in TikTok a little bit, and I actually worked with a social media guy, and he said, I wouldn't waste your time on TikTok. And then I would talk to my stepson, who's 15.
You're right. Yeah.
He said, I don't know, TikTok's really, it's really blowing up. And then I would talk to a couple other people and they would say that. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to stick with it a little bit. I'm not going to go put a lot into it at first, but I'm just going to stick with it. And sure enough, it's been awesome.
That's great.
And I'm just starting to get a little bit of a flow with it. I had one go viral.
I find them very entertaining, to be honest with you.
It is. It's so well. I think that's part of it. It's a fun way to educate people.
Yeah.
And it's really short. I mean, it's only a minute. There's no captions. You have to really get creative.
Yeah.
But what's nice is I can use those videos for the other platforms. So it's actually a very easy way to make videos and just put them on the other platforms.
That's great. I love it. That's
so
awesome.
That's kind of how I've been using it.
There's a whole odd world of TikTok called TikTok Finance, where they give, I've seen some of it. Some of it's not great advice. So I'll say that. So be forewarned there.
Got it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your life mantra, right? I would say, and maybe I'm overstating it, but I feel like your life mantra is challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. And actually my book, which is coming out in a month, is Rise Up.
Oh, perfect.
Yep.
So tell us, well, let's talk about both of them then. Let's talk about what's challenge accepted and how did you come up with that?
So Challenge Accepted really came about during my cancer treatment, and my boss at the time at the company I was working with, he gave me Challenge Accepted bracelets, and then a lot of my coworkers. And then again at my wedding, which was of course roughly a month later, my husband gave them to everyone at the wedding. So everyone was wearing them. So it was pretty amazing. And right at that time anyway, I was really trying to kind of, I felt like I was able to push forward. I said, okay, I got this. And so that just really did become my mantra, as you said, during my whole cancer treatment. So do you want me to lead into the next part?
Please do. Yeah, please do.
So I'd finished, just timing wise, just to, give you an idea. So I finished 3 rounds of chemotherapy. And then I was able to get married, and they said, you can, we can take a week off and you could get married and go on your honeymoon.
Yeah.
So got married, which was amazing. And it wasn't anything about cancer. It was just about us, which was incredible.
It's great. Yeah.
Then we went on our honeymoon in Costa Rica, which I was allowed to fly and everything, which was, everything was was pushing it just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Costa Rica. So there it was, my bald head. We surfed, we went whitewater rafting. We did everything we normally would have done. And then I got back and immediately had to switch to radiation because the tumor got bigger. So started radiation and I felt awesome. So I felt really good at that point. And I there was a gym that had opened up, which was a ninja gym that I wanted to check out. And my husband had told me about American Ninja Warrior a couple years prior, and I didn't even know about the show. And he said, you know what, you should be on this show. So that was always just brewing in my head for 2 years. And so when that gym opened up, it wasn't because I had cancer. It was just that it happened to open. And so I thought, I'm going to go in, check it out. And if I like the people, if I like the place, then I'll start training for it. Yeah. So I walked in, introduced myself to Mark, the owner, and I said, hi, I'm Arianne. I'm interested in training for American Ninja Warrior. He said, okay, awesome. So we started talking a little bit, and I said, well, I've got some things going on. I said, I didn't have any hair. I said, so I'm in radiation. I still have to get surgery and more chemo, but we could just work around those things.
We'll work around those minor inconveniences. Yeah.
So he said, awesome, let's start Tuesday. So it was amazing. So I worked in the morning. I still continue to work. I took the train to Philly, went to radiation, came back, and then trained at the Ninja Gym. So I went probably about 4 or 5 days a week and just started training hard.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then you get onto the show.
So then I got on the show. Yeah. So I had surgery after that. So I take a little bit of a break, but I didn't totally take a break. I just took a break from my legs, and my husband built me a ninja gym in my basement. So I was still able to do all of that stuff, which was awesome, which was of course so much hanging.
Sure.
And then I did more chemo. And then my last day of chemotherapy, I submitted my application. I was sitting in the hospital bed and I just hit submit, and I looked over and I said, hey, to my husband, I said, I just submitted my application. He's like, you're nuts.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, it was. But then 4 months after, I got the call and competed on season 8.
So 4 months, you're done chemo. 4 months later, you're on season 8 of American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, it was incredible.
That is incredible. I have an odd question about American Ninja Warrior that I've always wanted to know. Is the water cold?
I don't even know, Brian. I don't even know. I touched it. But I don't remember it. That's what I always say. I don't even remember being in the water at all. I stood so gracefully into it that I don't even remember being wet, which is so
That's
funny.
great. I love it.
So I wish I could answer that for you, but I really don't know.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your community involvement. You have I guess an organization or an event that you run called Dance Strong. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started that in honor of my brother. He was a really huge fan of Lance Armstrong, and I know everyone has mixed feelings about him, but
the guy raised millions of dollars for cancer.
He did, and at that time, he really gave my brother hope, and he felt like Lance was really going to help find the cure. So because of that, I had started ballroom dancing, and that was a really big way that I began to use movement to help me heal. So I initiated this event called Dance Strong, and we're going on our 10th year. Of course, we had to miss a year this year.
Sure.
And raises money for Live Strong, and just by sharing through the joy of dancing. So there's dance performances and just a really fun event. I do it at the Blue Ballroom in Wilmington.
Oh, that's great. That's a great event then.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's really fun.
You mentioned your book. Let's talk about, so you have a book coming out.
I do. I'm so excited.
I bet. First of all, how hard is it to write a book?
It is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's just a lot. When you think that you're almost there, you're not almost there.
Yes.
So it's just been editing after editing after editing. And you think, and like I said, it seems like there can't really be any more mistakes. And then there are, which is mind blowing.
So how does the theme rise up? How does that come into play?
So it's essentially my journey of healing through mindset, nutrition, and movement. So I talk about some challenges that I faced even earlier on than that, and all the way through cancer and beyond. And really my goal is just to help inspire people to really rise above their own challenges too, to be able to use these things and just maybe a different way of thinking about life and cherishing movement and health, as opposed to just, like I said, just always taking things for granted. One of my big missions is to help people take ownership of their health.
Yeah, it's actually pretty amazing. The one theme, just talking to you for 30 minutes or whatever it's been, is your gratitude in the face of major issues that create tons of adversity. So it seems like you were always able to stay grounded and actually appreciate even the worst situation. Is that a fair way to put it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Because I've also seen so many people throw their lives away and, really not appreciate their health. And I think just in my lifetime, including myself, I've just watched so many people struggle with health related issues. And when you watch someone close to you pass away that, that is fighting for their lives, yet other people are throwing it away. It just, I don't know, it just really gives me at least a different perspective on life.
Absolutely.
And I just hope to share that and empower people with that as well.
Yeah. Well, would you say that your brother is the most influential person in your life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned it before. What was it? Purpose and
passion and purpose.
Passion and purpose, and being able to find that, early on is a huge thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I always like to ask this question. So, if you could go back in time, knowing that what you know now, if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice when you were, say, 20, 25, 18, what would you tell yourself if you could do that?
What would I tell myself? So let me think about that for a moment. I think that I would just say to always follow your path, always follow your passion, no matter what may derail you along the way, or who may derail you along the way.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've had a lot of those moments, whether it's, like a health related issue, or even people telling me you're not going to be able to do this. Yeah. And I just think that if you really love what you do, and sometimes people need to figure that out, figure out what is that. But if you really love what you do, there's no stopping you. When you feel like you truly have purpose, I feel like you can do whatever you want in life.
Sky is the limit. Yeah.
Sky's the limit. Yep.
That's awesome. Well, Arianne, this was awesome. I really appreciate your time today. It was great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. If you'd like to learn more about Arianne and the Movement Paradigm, go to themovementparadigm.com. You can also find her TEDx talk by Googling Arianne Missimer Challenge Accepted. And then when's the book come out?
The book should be out in the end of April.
Okay, perfect. So be on the lookout for the book, Rise Up, coming out in the end of April. Mm-hmm. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about how my firm helps business owners with their financial planning, visit riversedgeadvisors.com. And to hear past episodes of the podcast, go to happy-half-hour.com. Arianne, I forgot to rate my beer. So, it's actually really good.
Do I rate my water too?
Yeah. As far as an athletic brewing company, well done by you to make a really tasty non-alcoholic beer. That's good. So we'll put show notes and we'll put a link to their website in the show notes. So Arianne, thank you so much, and cheers to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Happy Half Hour with an Entrepreneur, sponsored by River's Edge Advisors. For more information on how River's Edge Advisors can help you, visit their website at riversedgeadvisors.com. If you'd like to connect with Brian Carney for business advice or just to share beer, follow him on Instagram at riversedgeadvisors_LLC.